coal. It's a slightly smaller sack of coal than a hundredweight. It's 75 pounds, actually, which is easier to carry and was carried by women quite a lot. Butter ham, quite well known.
And carried by women quite a lot.
Yep.
The olden times.
And only in the northeast. Anyway, Humphrey Burton.
Now, a butter ham is a partial lining to a cloak. It's a half or three-quarter length of some material which is worn either for warmth or for show. I mean, this sort of stuff is as to a butter ham. Now, it's not known whether the cloak spread by Sir Walter Raleigh before Queen Elizabeth was adorned with a butter ham, but therefore
now you've got to put it back on.
Yes, am I going to...
Let's see that. So, that should be worth seeing.
Because it's not known whether Sir Walter Raleigh wore a butter ham or not, we don't know whether, in fact, the cloak hit the puddle butter ham side up or down.
Well. You'll have to take that handkerchief out of your... Oh, you got it on now, splendid. Well, so it's that. It's a sack of coals. It's an axe in Somerset. And it's a cloak lining. Hannah, your turn.
Humphrey's half lining to his cloak.
Or three-quarter.
Or three-quarters. Well, I got so interested in the jacket coming off that I forgot to listen to the half of the three-quarters out of the cloak.
I'll do it again.
Well, yes. Prunella's axe, sort of do-it-yourself beheading kit. And Frank's sack of coal from the north that ladies carried. What did we think?
2 to 1 chance.
I think it's Prunella's beheading.
She said it was an axe, didn't she? Yeah, chopping away. True or bluff, Prunella?
Pleased there, I think.
She doesn't look too displeased.
Not that
Oh, dear. Now, which member of the team gave the true definition of the word?
Some fun.
So all that he did with the coat was true. Well,
Yes.
you know, well, I mean, it was... Butter ham does mean the inside, the lining of a cloak. 4-2, we get Loughran, and Patrick's going to tell us about it.
And Loughran was a kind of hairdo that was created by the beauties of New Orleans, or New Orleans, as we say it here. Or a typical kind of hairdo, you take a bunch of hair on top of it, you kind of draw it down, you kind of push it out to one side. Lovely. So you can put a kind of flat crown hat with a high thing on top of it. And you go sauntering down Bourbon Street wearing a Loughran. Thank you.
Bryan Marshall tells us.
Loughran doesn't mean anything at all. It's an exclamation. So it really needs an exclamation mark after it. It's not a particularly strong exclamation. It's like on a par with, oh, golly and gosh and heavens and really vile things like that. It was fashionable in the mid-19th century, but it's not used a lot now. I haven't used it recently anyway. If we win, I'll say Loughran at the end.
Well. Now, Hannah Gordon tells us.
Loughran is the ancient art of levitation, causing objects to hover in midair. And to define it in the words of a contemporary of Chaucer, I should like to refer to my notes for this. It is, and I quote, "an arte mathematical, which showeth how above nature, virtue and force may be multiplied to pull to or cast through."
Oh, wasn't that nice?
Well put. Well put.
It means levitation. It means a hairdo, and it is an exclamation. Frank chooses.
Lovenanti, Lovenanti. Just to obscure the fact that we have no idea what the answer is. It's,
we can see that from here.
Yeah. Don't think it's levitation, Hannah. It doesn't sort of ring, doesn't zing, does it? Lovenanti. Could be. How long have I got? Exclamation.
An hour and a half.
18th century exclamation. No, Paddy is rubbish about New Orleans. It must be.
It's beautifully put, anyway.
Yes, it was.
You're going to choose that bit?
Yes.
Oh, yes, about the hairdo. He said it was.
Yes.
Yeah, hairdo. Patrick, true or bluff? He owns up now.
At long last, a modest little victory.
No. It wasn't a hairdo. Someone must have given the true definition. Here it comes. Own up.
Oh, very good.
Lovenanti.
Yes. An exclamation. 4-3. Everyone's in the game. All to win, as they say. Yes. Feasings. Frank.
Feasings was a thing which occurred. The Feasings occurred and rather sort of worried the early settlers in Virginia, who found themselves rather like viewers to this programme, yawning a lot, full of lassitude, unwilling to work or even to think much. Probably form of swamp fever, wouldn't you say?
And now it's Humphrey's turn.
Well, Feasings are small, undernourished apples, so small and sort of mingy that they're left on a tree by the professional apple pickers, not worth the picking. In certain cider-making counties in the southwest particularly, small boys, who usually scrump these sort of things, are bribed not to steal the healthy, full-grown apples by being given the promise that they can pick the Feasings for free when the harvest is actually over. Small,
is it?
Nasty apples. And I hope you pick a ripe harvest yourself.
Right, Prunella. Prunella.
Yeah. Sight of Feasings on board a ship would be absolutely guaranteed to make the first mate blow a gasket. The Feasings are the untidy unravellings of rope ends which haven't been whipped. That is to say, they've been allowed to fray in an unseamanlike manner.
Yep, so it's kind of a disease, it's untidy rope ends, and it's undersized apples. Patrick?
Speaking once again as a former member of the Irish Marine Service, CPO Campbell, never feased a rope during our 4 years of defending Irish neutrality. Of course, it's silly to dig around any longer. It's apples.
You think it's the apples? You won't have anything to do with the malady?
No.
Humphrey Burton said that it was
a child,
little apples left on the tree. True or bluff?
A diseased apple.
No. Now, I wonder which of the other two was telling the truth. Now we have to learn.
Good old Ireland.
Yeah, Feasings turns out to be rope. I must say that's exploded your credibility as an ex-CPO in the Irish Navy. Dear me, what a sad note to end not only this programme but indeed the series on. But before we do, let me declare the final scores. 5-3, Frank Muir's team has won. So as I say, that's the end of the programme. Indeed, the end of the series. We put the OED back in the cage, draw the cloth over the top, and say our farewells. Beginning, first of all, with Bryan Marshall, Humphrey Burton, Anna Gordon, Prunella G, Patrick Campbell, Frank Muir, and goodbye. me welcome you to another spasm of Call My Bluff, featuring the first gentleman of the panel game, wearing, as he's just told me, a free tie, Frank Muir.
Oh, what a gross breach of confidence to start the series. Good evening. And my first guest is a doctor, scientist, television presenter, author, mother of four, Miriam Stoppard. And continuing with our firm's policy of bringing you nothing but the best, we have the conductor of the Halle Orchestra, James Loughran.
And the ancient mariner himself, Patrick Campbell.
I have here on my left a lady solicitor who's well known to you from Rough Justice, smooth, delicious Wendy Allnutt. And the other one is a lovely smooth walnut called Anthony Valentine.
As ever, the game begins like that. We get this word punketto, and what happens, if I remember it correctly, is that Frank and his team are going to define punketto 3 different ways. 2 of those definitions are false ones, one's true, and that's the one that Patrick and company try to pick out. So, Frank, tell us about punketto.
Punketto, as you would suppose, is not very nice. Not very nice at all. But not very nasty. The etto means little, you see. And it's a small social or social gaffe, some kind of tiny breakdown in protocol, like passing the cakes round with your thumb on the good one, or having coffee with the Queen and nervously leaving the spoon in the cup, so that when you take a sip and bring it down again, you've got the spoon stuck up in... it's a tiny little solecism, social solecism.
Right, James Loughran, your go.
Well, I call it punketto. Punketto is an Italian word used in a duel. And as soon as there's a drop of blood, it just needs to be a prick of blood between these 2 duelists. They all throw their arms about each other and cry and say, honor has been done, but the punketto has been seen to be done. Punketto.
What drivel.
Beautifully done, James.
Miriam Stoppard, your turn now.
Well, now, all you wine connoisseurs will recognize this word immediately, because a punketto is a deliberately made, pinched-in kink in the neck of a wine bottle. You can think of it as a bottleneck in a bottleneck. And punkettos first appeared in 17th century Lombardy wine bottles, partly as a trademark, but also because they helped to make that lovely noise as you poured it out. You know, glug, 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 glug. It was the punketto doing that.
Right, so it's being pinked by a sword. It's that sort of kink in a bottle, and it's a sort of a little solecism. Patrick?
He's worried, I feel.
I don't regard a teaspoon up the nose as being a social gaffe at all. Even taking tea with the Queen, would that happen? It could happen to anybody.
But a gaff up the nose would be social.
Who's speaking? All this punketto. Of course, everyone knows it's a bottleneck and a bottleneck.
You're choosing that, are you, Patrick?
You're very, very definite.
The little dint in the bottle, of which Miriam spoke. True or bluff, Miriam? Now you tell us.
It's the usual bluff, always been.
Could easily have been that, but it wasn't. Who gave the true definition of punketto?
It was punketto, wasn't it?
No! No, it's being left with a teaspoon up your nose in unhappy circumstances. Meanle is the next one, or I dare say you'll pronounce it Humphrey in different ways. Patrick.
The Meanle is the kind of hairy blemish on a beautiful white horse, an unimaginably white horse. But it's got a Meanle on it.
Oh.
About the horse's person is this blemish, but you can see it, fortunately, when the horse is standing up. Because its Meanle can appear on its nose, perhaps a snout or muzzle, or on its foot.
Pretty scientific. Anthony Valentine's turn now.
Yes. A Meanle is a flat metal plate used by a charcoal burner to regulate the draft of air.
Oh, thank you.
Going, please, Frank, a little patience, please. The draft of air going into his fire. And as the temperature of the fire, it's very important that it must be maintained evenly. The position and the angle of the Meanle is an important part of the charcoal burner's craft.
Great. Now, Wendy Allnutt, she has a go.
Meanle is soured honey. It's an acrid honey that comes from a diseased beehive.
Oh.
It's pretty nasty, but you mustn't throw it away because you can use it. It's used as a dressing for leather. It puts a nice squeak into a new pair of leather breeches.
Put a nice squeak in or take it out. Ah, well, one or the other. Sour honey is what it is. It's a blot on an otherwise white horse, and it's a sort of draft plate that's arranged just so by charcoal burners. Frank, your choice.
So obvious, it seems a pity to take the money, doesn't it?
Yes.
I thought it was a punker thingamy to call a white horse white. Don't you call it a grey?
Well, I don't call it... I call a grey horse a grey one.
No, I think you're wrong. Up Olympia, the 3-day events. Whether it's sour honey, no, don't think so. I think it's a bit sort of mead and honey, and I think it's a play on words to lure, to ruse us into thinking it's honey. Perforated plate. Oh, God, what do you reckon? Hang on. Do some... Yes, OK, Paddy. Let's have this wretched white
so
horse.
You're choosing the
horse pimple.
The flaw on the white horse.
The horse pimple.
Now, Patrick, Tremblay. How did you know? That was Miriam got you that, I think, Frank. She knew. 2-0, my goodness. Let's have another word, see what happens. Card doer. And it's James Loughran's turn to define it.
Card doer. It's very close to my heart, this meaning, because it's a self-employed Scotsman but he's rather handy with needle and thread. Whether they have them now in Scotland, I don't know, but they used to go round patching up any men's from house to house. And if you had to be in the embarrassing situation where your sporran in your kilt was wearing an embarrassing hole, then you brought in a card doer. Well, because he knew the tartan and he could link it all together. This was a card doer.
Right, now it's Miriam, your go.
Well, now, a card doer is a piece of jewellery. In fact, it's a locket, and it's usually given to a loved one. And because of this, it has a rather pretty heart shape. Regardless of what it's made, whether it's gold or silver or whatever, it always has this rather sentimental shape. And probably the most famous, the most well-known card doer of all was found amongst the effects of Lady Hamilton. It was thought to have been made in Naples and given, of course, to her by Lord Nelson.
Card doer?
That's the word, Patrick, and now Frank's going to tell you about it.
Card doer, as the word itself indicates, is a flat American jug. It's a jug, squatty, a sort of squat jug, which the Americans tend to use for pouring maple syrup over waffles, or gravy over giant cheeseburgers, or very often, Americans being what they are, syrup over the giant cheeseburgers, gravy over waffles, and it's a squat traditional American jug.
So they say that this word is a locket, a kind of a gravy boat, and a Scotch clothes mender. Anthony, your go.
Yes, yes. I'm reluctant to believe that such a hardy and self-sufficient race as the Scots would actually need a little man, presumably on a bicycle, to come round and mend a broken sporran. So that they might be able to get down to it themselves. I want to believe that they can. As for Frank's flat American jug, I don't think I can even deal with that. No, Frank, no, you won't convince me, and it may well be at my... No, Miriam, no, it's got to be a locket.
Yes, that's what she said. A locket to our Bluff, Miriam.
Oh!
I wonder who gave the true definition. Will you believe it when you see it? It's this little Scotchman who comes round and says things for you. Right, 3-0. Goodness me. Carotel is the next one. Anthony Valentine.
A carotel is an offensive epithet for a stay-at-home soldier, particularly for a reluctant knight. I mean, a knight who is reluctant to quit his lady's boudoir and other such creature comforts. In fact, Duffy's historical account of the Crusades referred to them as posturing carotels, who spend their time in sport and play and are a stain upon the social society.
Yes, right. Wendy now tells you a thing.
A carotel is a word used by dried fruit merchants, people who deal in cloves, figs, raisins, apricots, and it's the cask or barrel that they transport the fruit in, and it usually weighs about 700 weight. A carotel.
Right. Now, Patrick, what do you tell us?
Carottle is nutritious jelly which you can make by boiling kind of wiry seaweed which you find off the coast of Cornwall. You make a jelly out of it. This has got a little medical aid here, as a kind of anticoagulant. Would that be right? Anyway, Dr. John Todhunter,
know him well,
in Truro, 1888, he suddenly found that by boiling what he called carottle, he could stop wounds bleeding. That's what he did. That's what I just said.
So, yeah, well, it's this seaweed jelly. This chap was boiling one day, found it worked. It's a barrel containing dried fruit, and it's a sort of skiving soldier, a stay-at-home soldier. James, your go.
Well, this particular carotel or carotel that Patrick talks about, I can't be convinced about this jelly being nutritious with a word like carotel somehow. It doesn't click. It's not convincing. And what a stay-at-home soldier has got to do with carotels? No, that also doesn't weigh anything. I would plumb for Wendy. I think. That,
I'm delighted you plumped. You've broken the plumping barrier. Someone always does it, and it's personally pleasing to me. Wendy, true or bluff? Incredible opening innings, Frank. The rub of the green, Patrick. 4-0, my goodness.
Trying to lose on purpose.
Sloyd is our next word, and Miriam, perhaps you'll tell us.
Yes. Now, any of you parents who have a small son who while away the hours with hammer and nails could do with brushing up on your Sloyd? Because Sloyd, of course, is an elementary system of instruction in woodwork, and it originated in Sweden. So the next time little Johnny feels like doing a bit of fretwork on your best three-piece suite, you might consider giving him the Sloyd Manual of Carpentry for his birthday.
So, that, and now, Frank?
One of the most embarrassing experiences of my life A brief one it was a brief one. Donkey's years ago, taking my little god-niece to Bertram Mills Circus at Olympia, and a lady acrobat came in on the back of a horse and lolloped round the ring, balancing, and a hush descended over Olympia, and my tiny god-niece stood up and addressed the packed seats behind and said, "God can do that. God can do anything." I said, "Sit down, sit down." Well, a circus artist who floats around on the back of horses, either leaping from one to the other or turning handstands on the flat bit of their bottom, that's called a sloid.
Fascinating.
Romany word. Romany word. Old Romany word.
Right, yes. Now it's James, your turn.
Well, Sloyd is a Scandinavian name. It's was well known at the time of the explorers going to either the North Pole or the South Pole. Amundsen, the Norwegian explorer, he used one. They were very heavy sledges, but the trouble with them, they were needed, of course, to carry equipment for the various explorations that were made, but they needed lots of dogs to carry this particular sledge.
Well, they would, wouldn't they?
Yes, but it was so heavy. All the equipment. Sloyd is the name for this Scandinavian sledge.
So it's kind of it's a species of woodwork, a kind of woodwork. A horse acrobat. I mean, an acrobat. You know, it's an acrobat and a horse, and it's a sledge. Wendy.
Oh dear, I don't like the sound of any of these.
We're doing new ones.
I don't think I like Miriam's Swedish woodwork very much. I don't think that sounds a very good idea. And Frank's sloiding about back to back from these horses sounds a bit difficult to me. I think I'm going to go for the obvious one, which is James's heavy sledge.
The sledge of which you spoke, James. Yes, now you must own up. True or bluff? No. Now let us hear who gave the true definition of this word, Sloyd. It's woodwork. 5-0. Dramatic opening, isn't it, really? Dotchin is our next word, and Wendy Allnutt defines it.
A Dotchin is the common law wife of a vagabond gypsy. She's the lady who stays at home and whittles the pegs that you buy when he comes round to your door to sell them to you. She keeps the home fires burning whilst he's out collecting pieces of metal and things like that. A Dotchin.
Right? Patrick tells us.
A Dutchin is a Dutch duck. And the worst news that any village green in England used to be called then ever had was the arrival of a Dutchin. Or a Dutch duck, because a Dutch duck called a Dutchin. It laid one egg about the size of a marble once a year. You couldn't eat it, and it munched all the pastures for miles around. It's a Dutch duck.
Right, so now it's Anthony, your turn.
Dotchin. Shall I repeat that for you? Dotchin is a portable weighing machine used by the street traders in southern China, but it is not unknown for some unscrupulous inscrutables to have two Dotchin. One for buying from you and the other for selling to you.
That's clever. That's clever. That's clever. Convinced.
So it's a Dutch duck. It's a portable weighing machine in the south of China, and it's a gypsy wife. Miriam.
The portable Chinese weighing machine's a marvellous idea, isn't it? It'll catch on, yes. And the destructive Dutch duck eating its way, cutting a swathe through the British landscape. I like the peg-whittling gypsy wife. Please, Wendy.
That was Wendy. Tell us, Wendy. True or bluff?
Yeah.
You've got one at last. That's a treat. So, let us have the true one now. Here it comes. There you are. Portable weighing machine in the south of China. 5-1, thank goodness. Smooting, we have Frank.
No,
I wondered where it had been.
No, this is not smooting, because the smooting, the 18th century, the cheapest snuff was called Rapparee, which is very rough and dry and nasty. But there was also something nastier, and that was when you'd rubbed and sieved your roll of dry tobacco against the little rasper. You got left on the bench with a whole lot of dust and muck, and that was called the smooting. Fit only for Spaniard, it was said at the time. Very cheap.
Right, now, James Loughran, you tell us.
Smooting is the angler's dream. It's when he sees a calm river and suddenly there's lots of bubbles appear in the middle with the fish coming up to eat insects. This action is called smooting. Angler's term.
Miriam.
Now, smooting could get a printer into trouble with his trade union, because smooting is the practice of accepting casual labour in a printing house where the printer is not employed, and it's a practice which is greatly frowned upon by the TUC.
Righto. So it's kind of the bits that are left behind after you've gathered up the other bits and stuffed them up your nose. It's the rise of the fish, and it's a sort of moonlighting printer. Patrick, your choice.
What wretched nonsense. Rub snuff. I don't know if smooting, whether the fish or the fisherman is smooting. Don't answer. That's my
the rise of the fish.
Trouble.
The rise of the fish, as I gathered it, sitting here as I was.
Moonlighting printers, they said, moonlighting. No. I'm sure it's either the fish or the fisherman that are smooting. I think I am. Yes.
You're going to choose the rise of fish. That's James. True
It's
or
another bluff. Just show it, just flash it, lad.
Shall I?
No. Let's see which it was. True. One comes out now, and there it is. Voila. Printer who does other work beside the one he does during the day. Cratchon is our next word, and Patrick to define it.
If you're stuck with an old sheep and you've taken the skin off it and you've eaten the edible bit, you want to melt down the rest of it to get some juice out of it anyway. Little bits get a gristle and bone and that kind of rubbish they're left behind. They're called cratchon. After you've sieved it, you've got your cratchon in your sieve. Sometimes the cratchon is put into Rover's bowl for Rover's lunch.
I might be ill any moment.
There's still better news to come from. Round about Cheshire, many a thrifty housewife takes the cratchon out of Rover's bowl, seeing the Rover doesn't like it, and it turns into cratchon cakes. Delicious.
Well, as likely as anything, Anthony Valentine now.
Cratchon. Actually, Cratchon is a rare piece of authentic Somerset dialect. It's an ancient adjective, and its modern counterpart would probably be something like as thick as 2 or even 3 short planks. Yes, in villages like Marston Magna or Chiltern Cantello, he or she who has an IQ which is regarded as being an absolute minus may be referred to as being crouching, easy crouching, easy crouching.
You did it very well.
I finished.
Now, Wendy, what do you tell us?
Cratchin is a tool or an implement for digging up cockles on the sandbanks of Essex. It's a curved wooden implement with 3 or 4 prongs at the end of it, and you put it under the sand and dig up the cockles.
So it's a
Well done.
It's a cockle. It's a cockle fork. It's gristly fat, and it's daft in Somerset.
My funny Valentine. I don't really think it's a funny West Countryman. Could be. I might just juggle the options a little. How are we for time?
We may get another one in if we're brisky.
I don't think it's a cockle fork. I think the cockles, being the size they were, would fall between the prongs if there were only 3. Well, whether it's a filleted haggis is the other thing. I think it's a filleted haggis.
The gristly thingy that
everything
is
of the
sometimes
sheep,
made into cake.
but the meat.
Patrick, true or bluff? He tells us now.
I say losing is fun.
Just once in a while, it is the fatty cake, you know, and it's real. Now, let's race fairly swiftly. Let's have the last word. It's arch it, James. Just canter along fairly swiftly.
Yes, arch it is a French term for the hard crust that forms in a barrel of fermented wine. Very difficult to clean.
Splendid. Miriam, your turn.
Archet is a word which is really passed out of use. It's the old word for the bow with which you play a violin. Perhaps the older members of James' orchestra still use it.
Yes, no. Frank?
Archet, small arch, such as top half of mouse hole.
Right. It's crust on the inside of a barrel. It's a small arch, and it's an old-fashioned word for a violin bow. Anthony, make a swiftish choice.
A swiftish stab, yes. It could well be the crust, and it could well be a mouse's top-knot hole. I've taken even dafter guess and say it's the violin bow.
Violin bow? Right, Miriam, tell him.
Done.
Oh, my
Lovely. It does, in fact, mean a violin bow. Had you ever heard the term before, James?
Oh, yes, I had.
Ah, yes.
Well,
yes.
it's the only thing I have heard in this programme.
Just one. Anyway, there you are. The score tells its own story, does it not? 2-7 or 7-2. Frank Muir's team has won. So, we are back next time with The Halt and the Lame from the Oxford English Dictionary. And until then, good night from James Loughran.
Good night.
Anthony Valentine. Miriam Stoppard. Wendy Allnutt. Frank Muir. Good night. Patrick Campbell. And goodbye. Welcome you to Call My Bluff, the upmarket version of Crown and Anchor, which features Patrick Campbell.
Having been robbed blind last week by the other mob, I've called back to my side from rough justice, lovely Wendy Allnutt. And on the other side, the master boat attempted a bit of burgling, Valentine.
And several yards of pure flannel, Frank Muir.
Curious sort of life where you start off the show with falling about with laughter at Robert's jokes.
Oh, come. That'll be the day.
I have the same team as last week, a lady of many parts, beautifully fitted together. A doctor and mother and writer and lots of other things. Miriam Stoppard. And from the world of music, as they say, the conductor of the Halle Orchestra, James Loughran.
Our first word appears to be rum swizzle. Let me remind you that Patrick Campbell and his team will define rum swizzle 3 different ways. 2 of them will be false definitions. One is true. That's the one that Frank and Co. will try and pick out. So, Patrick, what of rum swizzle?
Rum swizzle, about 200 years ago, was a thick fabric, almost waterproof, worn by the poorer people in Dublin. We were all poor people 200 years ago now. So you might be taking your ease along the north wall, running at the quays there. I might hear a man saying, "Hey, Joe, I think a bit of rain's coming on. Better slip into me rum swizzle."
Yeah, sort of a thing you put on. You did. I'm sure I was listening. Anthony Valentine.
As you might expect, rum swizzle is an artificial, an ersatz, a mock kind of rum. It's a rum that's never been anywhere near, not within 100 miles of sugar cane. In fact, it's made from the fermented juices of sugar beet. And its brewing was once a very important but nevertheless clandestine industry in the remoter parts of Suffolk.
So, now it's Wendy Allnutt to tell us.
A rum swizzle, in the hunting dialect of Herefordshire, is a hen's egg that might be said to have gone off at half cock. It looks all right. It looks absolutely fine, like any other hen's egg, but when you crack it open, it's half full of air.
So it's an emptyish sort of egg. It's thick stuff that they made coats of in Ireland. And it's mock ersatz rum. Frank.
Can't be. Sorry, we're having a little conference here.
Too long, really?
No, it's all right. It's, we don't think it's the Beat Generation's juice extracted from as an imitation or swizzle on Jamaican rum.
Good heavens.
Well, no, we couldn't really, could we, Anthony?
No, I'm
the
just
best will in the
surprised.
world. It just is too obvious. Now, whether it's, on the other hand, Irish waterproof fabric or an aerated egg is very interesting. I would have thought the aerated egg. So, Wend, if you could
She did
put
indeed.
us out of our misery.
Miss Allnutt, yes. Wendy, true or bluff?
Well,
No. Who gave the true definition of this interesting word? You see.
There's a heavy shower of rain coming on.
So it is indeed that thick material out of which rainproof garments were sometimes made. Gub is the next simple word. Frank, what of gub?
the meaning of this word is frightfully dreary and is not helped by the way I do it. So if you'll listen intently, a gub is the elongated extension of the hub of a wheel. And if, in other words, it's the hub extending beyond the spokes of the wheel. So mark me, if the wheel is turning and you fit an endless belt over the hub, the gub, the endless belt will be projected round at a speed depending not only on the speed of revolution of the wheel, but also of the diameter of the gub. I've forgotten.
Well, I'll get James Loughran to have a try now.
Next time you're in the Faroes, in the Faroe Islands, listen for the word gub to be shouted out by these islanders, because this is a very significant word. It means that those bottle-necked whales are approaching the waters around the island. Now, the significance of that is not the bottle-nosed whales, which you know, which you can recognise, I'm sure. Personally, I've never seen them, but it's the fact that they bring always a shoal of herring, and therefore the fishermen of the Faroe Islands are pleased. And it's just a way of expressing relief, gab.
I see. Miriam, your go.
Well, the word is pronounced goob because it's a lovely Persian word for a lovely Persian custom. Goob is dried rose petals, which the Persians are given to spreading on the floor so that the visitor will step on these sweet-smelling items onto couches, chairs, and beds as a sort of aromatic deodorant. Come to think of it, it might not be a bad idea if London Transport didn't spread a little goob around the rush hour tubes.
It's delicious rose petals. It's the extension of a hub, and it's a school of whales that are both bottle-nosed and bottle-necked, if I got you right. Anyway, exactly, one or the other, or perhaps even both. Patrick.
Is it a flock or a shower or a mob of bottle-nosed, bottle-necked whales around?
School, Patty. A school.
You've got a bottlenecked...
Bottlenecked school.
Bottlenose.
It's a comprehensive term.
Comprehensive school.
Yes, we're advancing a little bit into a fairly impenetrable jungle here. The thing that sticks out of the wheel kind of whizzes round with the belt on it. No. So without gesture, right? Yes, there was a group in the tube. Everyone knows, including... probably my team, but not myself, that it's the thing that sticks out of the wheel.
That's the one you choose.
Yeah.
Frank, you said that.
I'll give you a chance to change your mind. Stranger.
For how much money?
Money doesn't enter into this programme to any
Just
great
like
extent, as you know. Oh, go on, then.
It is indeed the extension of the hub around which you can wrap
kids.
Whatever pleases you. Toka is the next one. Anthony Valentine defines it.
A toka was a giant variety of broad bean that was grown in the 18th century in gardens and allotments, and so large and luxuriant was its growth that the Percy throwers of the day recommended that each toka bean should not be sown less than a yard apart.
And now Wendy tells us.
A toka is a word which originates from Weymouth in Dorset.
Know it well.
It's the name given to a bathing machine attendant, particularly of the horse-drawn variety.
Horse-drawn attendant?
Horse-drawn bathing machine.
So.
It may be helpful to you to know that in the Dorset dialect there is a word, to toke, which is to take a dip.
Good. Glad to know that. Patrick tells us now.
A toka is a little bowl made of wood in which the inmates of almshouses, of course in the old days, they would serve their gruel in the toka. Wooden bowl, about that size, that deep. Not a lot of gruel, I must say, but still, free of charge. Now, the strange thing is that it means about St. John's Parish, hard by Canterbury. All the tokens in the almshouses there, they were made of hornbeam.
God bless my soul.
So, it's a bathing machine tendant, it's a bowl, and it's broad beans, or a broad bean.
Made
James,
by Holmes.
your go.
Well, you know, the laughing bean was the thing I couldn't quite understand. I've had sort of lots of laughing beans. I didn't really, although it was so convincing, in fact, the whole team is so convincing, it makes it very difficult. But a toker, it was a toss-up between Patrick and Wendy, as far as I know. Wendy was very convincing, but I'll go for Patrick.
Patrick, he said
a wooden bowl.
The wooden bowl. Patrick, you must now tell us, true or bluff?
We can't bear with it.
No. Who gave the true definition of toker?
And to my own amazement,
A broad bean is what it is. 3-0. Are the tables about to be turned? Let's see. It is. Well, they'll pronounce it, I don't know which way. Franchmile, I would say James Loughran.
Well, I don't know whether it's Franchmile or Franchmeal or Frankmeal, what it is, but what I do know is that it is an unorthodox haggis. No, don't laugh. I mean, it's
not laughing at all.
It's a non-conformist way of making the haggis, and it's really only fit for Sassenachs to eat. Because, you see, I mean, without trying to spoil your meal tonight, you take to make the real French meal, you would take a sheep's stomach, and then you cram it full, not with oatmeal and sheep's entrails. No, that's the right way of doing it. That's the way I like it. No, the way that the French meal would do it is with eggs and cream and such commodities so that it's not quite so strong. That is a French meal.
Positively lyrical, that one. Miriam, your go.
Franchmeal is poor man's Brussels lace. It's slightly coarser and harder wearing than real Brussels lace, and it actually comes from a place called Franchmeal, which is on the outskirts of Liège. It was used for things in the Victorian times like ecclesiastical vestments and for antimacassars, and in those days when they didn't like looking at piano legs, it was used for the pantaloons to cover up the piano legs. It's trimming, lace.
Frank, you're on.
I don't know if you've considered the fate of a medieval sapper. It's all very well for the knight who's got bags of armour on and things, but they say to this poor bloke, go out and dig a hole under the castle wall, and we'll put a bomb in and bring it all down, or we'll dig and make it collapse. How does he protect himself? Spears and arrows and stones and hot oil and things. With a Franchmile, which is a wicker basket. Hang on. It's not solely a wicker basket, because you used to fill the wicker basket with sort of gravel.
A whisker basket.
If you like, a whisker basket with... there are several variant pronunciations with earth and stones and things, and that gave him a little bit of protection. Later superseded by the sandbag.
So, it's an early sandbag. It's inferior lace and an inferior haggis. Anthony Valentine, his choice.
It's your choice, isn't it?
I wish it was someone else's. I'm
nothing to do with us at all.
Utterly overwhelmed by your unorthodox haggis. Utterly. You must tell me about that later on. Oh, a wicker basket full of things, wasn't it, Frank? Stones and things.
Anything.
And he gets behind this or into this?
It's a protection.
Yes, and
or it isn't. Oh.
Lace that goes over Victorian, yes. Oh, Lord.
Were you okay at 3-0? Plunge, lad.
Yes, I shall. In at the deep end. Because I don't believe it. I think it's James's unorthodox haggis.
Well, we shall live to see whether this is the case, because James, who did say that, now you must own up, true or bluff.
Suspense.
You're right! Indeed. Tables are being turned with a
Gone off
vengeance
this
now.
game.
4-0
I want
there
to
he
go
is.
home now.
Gonagra is the next word,
That doesn't
and
help, either.
Wendy Allnutt is to define it.
Ganagra is a powdered form of cochineal. It's the dried blood of insects used for colouring junkets and things, but it's not used in the kitchen any longer. It's now used in the manufacture of artists' paints as a pigment. Mostly for Davies carmine and brown madder.
Yes. Yes. Now, Patrick, his go.
A Ganagra, it's a fearful hailstorm that comes roaring down onto the coast of Chile. There's more to come.
I bet there is.
There's a little known fact in the town of Caldora, on the east coast of Chile, just east of Chile, you see, down there, that way. It was destroyed by a kind of hailstorm of this stuff at the autumn equinox in 1888.
Good.
Nobody survived, all lost.
How do you know, then?
I read about it.
Well, how did anybody know if they were all killed?
People came to see what had happened. They found when hailstones as big as billiard balls.
But hailstones melt.
This has been
I'll scrub that one.
They got there quick enough, that was the thing. Anthony.
Gout, as you know, is a painful affliction that affects heavy port drinkers, usually in or about or around or upon the big toe. Gonagra is a variety of gout that especially attacks the kneecap. And, yes, I'm afraid so. And is therefore detested and feared by the clergy, who find that kneeling to pray is made even more difficult when they have this condition.
So it's a kind of cochineal, that colouring stuff. It's gout in the kneecap, and it's a very nasty hailstorm. Miriam.
We've decided we're all going to go down together. If it's gout of the kneecap, I'll never hold my head up again. Because I've never heard of Ganagra as a form of gout. Chilean hailstones. All souls lost. I rather like the idea of the red pigment that goes into Davis carmine and madder brown.
Well, that was Wendy, yes. Was Wendy telling the truth, or was she teasing? Now, let's see the true definition.
Prepare to bow your head.
It's probably not called Ganagra these days,
No, not
is it?
in my day.
You'd have known all about
Not
it,
in
I'm
Muir's
sure.
pathology.
So, yes, that's what it is. It's gout in the kneecap. No laughing matter, I dare say. Bijan, the next one. Miriam, your go.
Well, it's pronounced Bajan, like behold, behead, and behave, Patrick. And
What did I do? Just sitting here quietly listening.
You're winning, that's what you're doing.
so behave, Patrick. Now, Bajan is a verb, and it describes the activity of a hawk when it's getting ready to take off, when it's seen its prey and it's getting rather excited and it knows that there's a kill ahead. When it arches its neck, fluffs up its feathers, and you know how they do this with their feet?
No.
Yes, when a bird's excited, it sort of goes from one foot to another on the perch. And that is to Bajan.
They don't like to overdo things, birds. Tremor a bit on the perch. Frank, your go.
Bijan from the French, lovely antiquarian word for first-year student at a Scottish university. Happily, a term still preserved at the University of St Andrews, of which I'm rector.
Ad.
What?
An ad.
Perfectly
Ad
justified.
what? We call them be-gents, from the French.
Well, James.
Now, you must know it.
Follow that.
It's a terribly well-known word.
James.
Well, Bijan is an Indian. It sounds Indian. It's an Indian word. It means a little toll house outside a village in India, northern India. And in fact, that during the Indian Mutiny, there was one of the first VCs with his company held one of these Bijans against the revolting natives, or the natives revolting, however you want to call it. That was the Bijan.
So it's that kind of Indian toll gate or bar where you go through. It's a hawk getting fairly excited, and it's a Scotch freshman, not the other way round.
Be grateful if you get this wrong. Be grateful if you get this wrong.
Up to you, darling.
You're on your own.
Oh, I think this is very difficult. I don't think that despite the fact you're rector, I don't think that it sounds like a first-year student at a Scottish university. Sorry. The hawk taking off, doing this funny little dance. And James's toll house. It does sound Indian, but I think I'll go for Miriam's hawk.
She did say, yeah, the hawk trying to work itself up to get up into the air. True or bluff, here it comes. No. Now, did the rector speak true?
All the relief is extraordinary when you get one, isn't it?
He was right.
Begent and Begentine.
There you are. He knew what he was talking about, for once. Right. Now, here we have another word, tenty, and I think Patrick's going to have a crack at that one.
You might see a field. You might see two fields. One's got cows in it, a kind of cow field, but the field next door, it's full of tents. There's Boy Scouts, even Girl Guides, or mixed even. Some Sea Scouts in there. It just tenty just means a kind of field with tents in it. A tent field. A tent field.
It makes a lot of sense.
Anthony, now your go.
A tenty is a vital piece of a horse-drawn plough. I've got to be a bit... I must get this right. It's a stout block of timber to which the ploughshare is attached, and because of the torsion... Think about it, Frank, yes? Because of the torsion exerted upon the tenty by the turning motion of the ploughshare, it is recommended that regularly it's turned through 90 degrees. Otherwise, you end up with a twisted tenty. Not good.
So, now, Wendy, what do you say?
Tenty, or tenty, is a Scots adjective for watchful or observant, or keeping your peepers well peeled. And if I may quote from Burns, Jean slips in twa with tenty E, what 'twas she would not tell.
What?
I'm not doing it again.
Not the same programme without a bit of Burns, I always say. Anyway, it's part of a plough. It's a lot of tents. It's a field full of tents. And it's an adjective. Or is it do I mean an adverb? No, I mean an adjective. Watchful. Frank, your turn.
I think, Anthony, it's the 9th piece of a horse-drawn plough that we've had on this programme, and none of them have been right. This might be the night tonight, but I don't think it is. Turning this bulk of timber through 90 degrees wouldn't do it any good, you know. Now, is it a tenty? It sounds awfully Scottish, doesn't it? In a porky wee. Or is it a field full of tents? No, it must be, Wendy, it must be your Scottish tenty.
You think that it means watchful? She
By
said
heavens,
it
I hope so.
True or
Robert.
bluff, Wendy?
No.
You're right! We've got nice time for another word. Tenty does indeed mean watchful, Scotch word. Hoggler's the next one. Frank.
Do you know you can eat the hedgehog?
Yep.
Before getting down to actually sinking the molars into it, you bake it in clay and then it gets all the things off. And it's extraordinary how such a lovable little animal is so full of fleas. But there we are. C'est la vie. But in Cambridgeshire, they eat a hedgehog pie, and they stick sort of almonds and roasted nuts in it to make it look like the spines, and it's called Hoggler pie.
Splendid. James, your turn.
Well, this is a giveaway to the winning team. A hoggler is an unskilled peasant. He's so unskilled he isn't qualified in any country craft at all. I mean, he can't sort of hedge or ditch or even spread muck. All he can do is to sit or lean on a 5-bar gate and suck a straw and stare into infinity.
Some skill involved there.
See if we can get him a job here. Miriam, what do you say?
Don Quixote used to have trouble with hogglers because these are the little pieces of metal that are put along the sails of windmills to strengthen him, so he had difficulty knocking them over. Usually, there's a strip of metal along the inside and outside of the leading edge and also one on the trailing edge of the sail to keep it stiff and straight.
So then you say that it's part of that's part of a windmill. It's a poor yokel who can't do much, and it's hedgehog pudding, I think you said, Frank. Fine. So, Patrick, what will you have?
Come on, we want to win.
You haven't got a hope of winning. Well, of course, absolutely absurd. The thin bits along the edges of windmill sails and... What about the profession of leaning unengaged over the sky sucking his straw? It's not you anyway, Frank, it's him.
Who's him? What do you mean?
It's
the
against error.
At the end, James, you said that, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
True or
You're
bluff?
caught out, weren't you? Yes.
Am I?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Let's see it.
You're right.
Aha! You really can't believe it, but it is true. All he said about the yokel being unable to do anything, perfectly true. So, very much last week's game is reversed, 6 or nearly reversed. I think it was 7 last week, wasn't it? I'm not sure.
Yes.
6-2. Patrick's team has won. So, we'll have some more words that never really caught on next week, and until then, goodbye from Anthony Valentine, James Loughran, Wendy Allnutt, Miriam Stoppard, Patrick Campbell, Frank Muir, and goodbye. Good evening. Call my bluff again, where a bow tie enters, closely followed by Frank Muir.
Good evening. My first guest is a delightful actress, too long absent from this programme, 6 years, I think. So how nice to be able to say, welcome back, Jenny Agutter. my next has been with us a bit, actually, but he's a broadcaster, a cricketer of some distinction, and he's also co-written an opera called Evita. Tim Rice.
And Phil the fluter himself, Patrick Campbell.
Good evening. My first guest might be called a Colleen by English people. I just call her Sinead Cusack. And the other one knows all, tells all, even more than the truth. Wretched scandalmonger Nigel Dempster.
We ring for our first word, and we get double sample. Toho is the first word. Let me remind you that Frank and his team are going to define toho 3 different ways. 2 of the definitions are false. 1 is true. That's the one they try and pick on. So what about this word, Frank?
Well, Robert. Well, for a change, toho isn't a type of boat found on the Red Sea, nor is it diseases of sheep, nor is it a Persian court official. It's the other one. It's a Peruvian drink. No, wait. It's a Peruvian drink made out of the insides of certain trees. It's highly alcoholic and highly appreciated by those that make it.
Right, so who's next? Tim Rice.
Well, if you're a dog or a dog lover, the word toho will be terribly common to you, because it's a command that dog lovers give to dogs. And if you yell, toho, to your dog, it will instantly, especially if it's a setter or a pointer, it will instantly stop whatever it's doing and do something else, or it'll wait. It'll wait for you. Toho means stop what you're doing, Rover, and wait for the next command.
All right, now Jenny Agutter's turn.
A toho, in the slang jargon of the horse and cart trade, is the workman whose job it is to raise the cart after it's been tipped over by emptying. At the risk of inciting a mass walkout by the Toho's union, I would not say that is a highly skilled job.
What a load of dribble, with due respect.
You never know, you never know. It might just be that, as she says, it's something lifting up a cart. It's an order given to a dog, and it's a very strong alcoholic Peruvian drink. So, Patrick, now, pick out the dribble from the other stuff. Or pick out the other stuff from the dribble.
Come on, Pad. Plunge.
I'd made a note here that all dogs are called Rover, and suddenly you call your dog Rover. That's not fair. But to say toho, Rover, stop what you're doing.
No, you wouldn't say that. You just say toho, because that
Who's
means...
doing the talking, you or me? Peruvian pushing up a cart, it's a cart pusher-upper.
You think so? Now, let's see who said that. Yes, Jenny, you said it. True or bluff? I wonder, was it drivel, or did she succeed in fooling you?
It's not bother, early days.
May have been drivel, but it was okay drivel. Now, who gave the true definition of toho? You can't believe it, can you?
Yes,
that is the correct way of addressing a dog. Toho is what you have to say if you wanted to do something else. Shivey is the next one. Patrick, you tell us.
A shivvy, a little short class of a leprechaun, I'm sorry to say.
Is a
little short class of a leprechaun.
Short class?
I mean, a short leprechaun. A little...
Oh, I see. Near miss there, sorry,
Patrick. A fully paid-up member of the World of Fairyland, the Irish branch, you see. But the thing about the shivvy is, he's dressed in seashells. And you can hear him clanking around as the sun goes down on Galway Bay.
Thank you, Mother McCree. Now, it's Nigel Dempster's turn.
Time was in the East End of London when the street cry of Shive, Shive brought housewives to their door with blunt knives and forks and scissors and things like that. It was, in fact, the street cry of the knife grinder, and it comes from the Jewish shiveh meaning I will sharpen. Hence, the word shiveh has come to mean the knife grinder.
All right. Sinead, your turn.
Well, shivvy is a very dirty word among wool gatherers. It being an adjective to describe a sheep's fleece that is in a bad condition.
Oh, well, the diseases again.
Yes. A fleece is said to be shivvy if, for instance, it's caked with mud or full of foreign bodies like burrs or briars or bugs or dead blue bottles, that class of thing.
Right, so it's a short class of a leprechaun. It's a knife grinder's cry, and it's an ill-conditioned fleece from a sheep. Frank's choice.
Might be right.
Anytime you're ready over there.
Well, we're not yet.
Sorry.
But, a fleece full of fleas. Fleas for tiny little people with rattling shells. The knife grinder, because a shiv is a knife, isn't it? A shiv. Yes, very worrying. I'll go for the knife grinder.
Knife grinder, that was Nigel Dempster who was saying all that. True or bluff? He tells you now.
A bit of suspense.
It isn't a knife grinder's cry. Got to be something else. Got to be one of the other two. Which one? Here you go.
It's a dirty old sheep, yes.
Is it? Oh.
If you want to place yours down there.
It's there. She's hanging it out.
We put yours down the hole.
We call milking the
friend guessed
suspense. Right, yes. 1 all. And we come to the word rusma or rusma. Tim Rice?
Or Ruthma. I don't need to tell you much about the Mongol invasion of Persia in the 13th century, because the information is at your fingertips. But suffice it to say, when these Mongols swarmed into Persia, as they did in 1256, having swarmed, they levied a tax on the Persians, and the tax that they levied was called a ruthma. Very slight lisp on the F.
Lip on the F.
Ruthma.
Oh, but lip on the R.
Jenny, your turn.
A rosma is a Lapland travelling sledge shaped like the front half of a boat. In fact, any do-it-yourself can make himself a rosma just by sawing a dinghy in half and attaching it to a reindeer.
Frank Muir's go.
Have you considered why your watch strap isn't hairy? Or why your boots aren't furry, normally? Why? Because the animal, you see, from which those things were made was hairy and had fur, but the hair and the fur had to be removed, did it not? And it was removed by applications of rastma. Rastma is buttered on like butter, and it's a kind of ointment of lime and stuff, and whack, the skin becomes naked. It's a depilatory used in the tanning and leather trades to... Am I boring you? To get rid of all the hair without actually having to shave them.
Oh, yeah.
Because you rub the stuff on, you see,
Yeah,
or without having to do it by abrasives. You could do it by abrasives, or you could shoot the hairs off one by one. Getting desperate now.
Throw another log on the fire, Frank. It's a hair remover. I think I've got you there. It's a hair remover, it's a sledge, it's a Mongol tax. Nigel Dempster makes his choice.
Well, it's certainly not a Mongol, because we know the invasion took place later than 1256. He's wearing a cricket tie, but he's not playing cricket today. I'm deeply suspicious of those colours. And as for the reindeer in Lapland and the half... definitely not. The way Frank told it with such gusto, I mean, veracity beamed through. It's definitely you, Frank.
You don't doubt that it was Frank who said that it was a depilatory, took hair off? True or bluff?
Ha-ha!
Frank was telling you the truth. That is a thing that takes hair off. Now we have puddly, and Nigel Dempster to tell us about Puddley.
As Archimedes is reported to have said, give me a Puddley long enough and I will move the world, or words to that effect. From which I hope you'll understand that a Puddley is a spar or a balk of timber which is used as a lever. Hence the expression, and I have it here, give us a heave on this Puddley Dudley.
Great stuff. Sinead now, she tells us.
A Puddley is a term for old rags, used shirts or chemises, anything that can be converted into paper. And years ago, up in the north of England, the Puddley man used to call on the housewives regularly to pick up the rags, he being a rag and bone man who dealt in rags, not bones.
Great, yes, they love that. That's splendid. Patrick?
Puddley is a deep-sea eel that congregates off the coast of Newfoundland.
Congregates? What an awful joke.
Who's doing this?
Low blow, Frank, low blow.
Your turn will come, lad. Wait for it. I shall begin again. Puddley is a deep-sea eel that congregates with little brothers and sisters off the coast of Newfoundland in the autumn. Now, there's a queer-looking eel, this one. It's got a kind of broken nose and two black eyes. For this reason, it's called the boxer fish.
That's laid him flat. It's an eel, it's a lever, and it's old rags. Tim Rice.
Well, I hate to go against anything Nigel says because I'm so used to everything he says being true. But reluctantly, I don't go for Archimedes. Quite convinced about Sinead's Yorkshire thing, but Puddley's too like Pudsey. I think the Yorkshireman would have had a different word that wasn't confusing with the town. So, I think a Puddley is an eel that's done 15 rounds with Muhammad Ali.
Yes, that was Patrick who said that, and made that good joke that Frank made for him. Yes, true or bluff?
I didn't hear Frank's joke. I got a good one here.
Tit for tat, I suppose. Now, who gave the true definition of this word? The true Puddley.
No, it's...
It's there. It is a species of lever. 3-1. Ring-a-ding. We get this word slickens. And Jenny Agutter, your turn.
A slickens on a riverbank is a sure sign to naturalists that there's an otter in the area. It's a smooth, sloping track, like a children's slide, which goes from the riverbank down to the river. And it's been made by the otter sliding down into the river very regularly. That's a slickens.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Now, Frank.
A slickens is... it's hardly worth telling you, really, is it? Your guess. A slickens is a word, Victorian word, for crafty, sly chap. A slickens. There was one, actually. There's a chap called Samuel Wadworth, who was an impresario and was known as Sam the Slickens. If you get a contract from a Slickens, you have to steam the stamp off because there's probably another clause under it.
Tim Rice.
If you've ever done a guided tour of an American quartz mill, you might well have noticed pulverized grit lying around the place. And that really is what slickens is. It's nothing to get terribly excited about. It's not that glamorous. But
it was quite fun, though, Tim.
Well, it's a bit dreary. It's dross, really, and it's the kind of dross that, in particular, can be seen round quartz mills in the United States.
OK, well, it's an otter's track. It's a devious sort of person, and it's powdered grit left over after you've done the quartz, whatever you want to do with it. Sinead, your choice.
It's a very difficult choice. I can't quite believe this otter slide.
Absolutely.
I just can't see those otters slipping, slithering, and making straight lines down to the water. Very difficult.
She's quite right.
However, what comes up? Oh, yes, the sly fellow.
Ridiculous.
Well, I'm sure I would have heard it in my business somewhere.
I know I could
would
bite
have
my
heard
tongue
about
off.
Slickins.
I do so agree with you.
So, I am most persuaded by Tim's pulverised grit. So I'm going for the pulverised grit.
All right, yes, Tim Rice, true or bluff? Bullseye! Yes, indeed. It was that stuff left behind after the quartz has been taken from it.
Going off.
Griggling is the next one. Ah, yes, 4-1. I say a lot of catching up to be done. Sinead, your turn.
Well, it's just a bit of niggling, really, to pretend that there's much difference between scrumping and griggling. Well, as you all know, scrumping and griggling involves the purloining of apples without the owner's consent. But whereas scrumping is the purloining or pinching of healthy, ripe apples, griggling, on the other hand, is the pinching of unripe, unhealthy, nasty apples.
That's a good idea.
It's a kind of a selfless activity, really. Patrick, what does he say?
A greeting is a cheery meeting of friends. Mostly women, to my amazement. They all get together to celebrate, perhaps the birth of a child, and they drink tea and cocoa and kind of meth and that kind of thing. But griggling mostly goes on around about Lancashire. They come in for a griggling because we have... Our Tom's a little baby. No, not our Tom, our Nelly, I beg your pardon.
Our cat.
You come in for a griggle. That's all.
I like the accent.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
I don't do it. Don't do that.
Nice and sparing. Nigel Dempster.
It's through a griggling that a butcher's assistant runs fist-sized hunks of suet to break it up into a more manageable texture. It's a sort of round iron sieve like that, fitted with small fangs or prickles, which serve to rend the fibres and tease out the gristle.
Right, it's a jolly gathering of people in Lancashire, particularly. It's the stealing of bad apples, and it's a butcher's sieve. Jenny?
I was very confused by the niggling and the scrumplings and I didn't quite believe that it was... I don't think anyone would want to steal bad apples. So I've given that up. Griggling being a meeting of friends for a booze-up or something is it sounds rather
ladies.
good. Oh, ladies. Oh, it's... Yes. No, I don't go for that. I'm going to believe Nigel Dempster. This time.
Are you going to say some more? Yes.
Yes. No, that... I'd like to see whether it is indeed the truth. But it's the going through a griggling, the meat goes through a griggling.
That's a sentence, you know. I'm going to believe Nigel Dempster. Well, let's see if you are well advised. True or bluff, Nigel?
Many do not, but Miss Agutter should join their ranks.
There's a moral in that somewhere, Jenny. Right, who gave the true definition?
Oh.
Low. I don't know what they do with the bad apples once they've pinched them. No.
I didn't inquire.
No, but it's true. To bad apple buyers, I suppose, yes. Ah, that looks as though something's been left out, but I know it hasn't. It is actually, well, I would say, que, I suppose, yes, que. Frank, what of que?
Fascinating, riveting thing, coup. It's a vernacular of the potteries. That's a change, isn't it? And the potteries, a coup is pronounced coup. It's not gu or anything. It's a special-shaped brick, a sort of semi-cylindrical brick, which is stuffed in the pot, you know, those things. And it supports the melting pot in which the bones and the clay are. And here's another thing, while you're still riveted, that these coups, or supporting bricks, have lots of little holes in them. They're perforated. Not just plain, they've got holes in them. Coup.
Tim, your turn.
Well, this is Kew, pronounced as Kew Gardens, or Kew for the Pictures. And I don't know if you remember, before 1971, we used to have pounds, shillings and pence. Well, before them, or with them, way, way back, we had things like groats and cues. And a cue is a coin, and its value was very, very, very small. So even back in, say, 1558, a cue wouldn't have got you an awful lot. But I suppose it might have bought you a small lump of bread or a quarter of a pint of ale. Its value was half a farthing.
Jenny.
A coo is a species of hanging vine that drapes itself round houses in places like Samoa in the Pacific. Though the grapes itself are very edible, the chief problem about having a coo growing over your house is that it makes it very easy for cat burglars to get in.
Yep.
To steal rotten apples.
It's a tiny coin, half a farthing its value, a fire brick, well perforated, and it's a hanging vine. Patrick.
It's a well-known fact there are no cat burglars in Samoa because all the doors are open all the time owing to the hot weather.
Where do Siamese cats come from?
Fine. It cannot be a creeping vine in summer, or help cat burglars. It might, is it? Wait a minute, don't rush me. A brick with holes in it. Because it's a tiny little coin.
The tiny little coin of which Tim Rice spoke now. You have to own up, Tim. True or bluff? It's true. The old skill isn't deserting you, Patrick. It is K, or Q, or pronounce it as you will. It was a tiny little coin. 6-1, my goodness me. Gatener is the next one.
No comments, just reading.
I'm just, I'm on the edge of my seat, Frank, I'll tell you. Patrick, your go.
You might well know that all Northumbrian farmers are individuals. They know their way around the wheat field.
No Siamese twins.
Just a moment, please. Your turn comes.
I'm keen to win.
Northumbrian farmers, if they don't stoop their sheaves or stoke whatever it is, they tie them all together, but they tie the top of the sheaves of corn. They kind of spread out the bottom, make little wigwams. Each kind of stoops. They stand by itself all over the field. Only in Northumbria is it called a gatener.
A fine old country word.
Let us now invite Nigel Dempster.
The Gatener was the official name of the Lord Mayor of London's state barge, incidentally a perk which his worship no longer enjoys. And it is recorded that in 1616, when Sir Philip Bagshaw was Lord Mayor of London, that he had himself rowed out in his Gatener to within sight of Calais before he turned back.
Just far enough, I thought.
Has anyone here seen Calais?
Sinead, quick, please.
A gatener looks a bit like a doll's saucepan. It's a very, very small brass cup, about 1 inch in diameter, with a handle fitted to it. And when a diamond is being cut or polished, it's very securely cemented into the gatener, and thus can be held in one hand and polished or cut with the other hand. It's lovely.
Well, there you have all those definitions. You've got a little saucepan which is useful for holding diamonds when you want to cut and polish them. It's a way of stacking corn, but only in Northumbria. And it's a Lord Mayor's barge in which he evidently didn't go awfully far. Frank?
Interesting selection. Well, what it ain't, if I might say so with some confidence, it ain't the barge. Because trying to row a barge from the Thames to Calais...
It wasn't just single-handed.
A lot of oars, but one barge. I think Paddy's in Stoke, as they say here. Diamond things, I don't think... Yes, it is the diamond thing. Yes.
You're going to choose that one, are you, Frank?
Let's go for that.
All right, that was Sinead. Now she has to own up, true or bluff.
Oh, you haven't, have you? Oh, you naughty girl!
Let's hear the true one, and we've got nice time for another word.
It is not I what is in Stook, but you.
The Gatenay, it really is one of those piles of stuff in Northumbria. Now, Magdalene, I think, it's our last word. Tim Rice.
You're right, it is Magdalene.
Oh, good.
And it's a cosmetic salve or ointment that comes in the form of a cylinder. So I guess you could call lipstick a Magdalene. I have no more to say.
Well, fair enough. Jenny, your turn.
A Magdalene was the pompous word used by the Victorians for the premises in which they showed magic lantern shows.
Oh, well, yes, not much you can add to that. That's perfectly true. That's what it is. Now, Frank.
I would like to suggest to you, not without some trepidation, that you could well accept that a Magdalene is a Greek Orthodox portable icon. Now, if you accept that, I mean, that's that, here and now, end of programme, 8-1. On the other hand, I'll cheerfully have another go, if you'd
So, but anyway, you are offering this portable icon as a definition. It's a magic lantern show also, and it's a kind of ointment or salve, I think. No, Nigel Dempster, choose.
He's determined to bluff us, is Frank, but it's clearly it can't be anything to do with Greek orthodoxy or any other form of orthodoxy. And as for Tim, it's cosmetic lipstick rubbish. Jenny speaks with such clear blue eyes. Oh, she doesn't speak with clear blue eyes. It's got to be Mr. Muir.
Well done, lad.
Let's see, the portable icon. Let's see if you did well for yourself there, Frank.
Snuff all over myself.
I was sorry not to be
Two games for two definition. We really need to know.
No, it's not.
Yes, indeed.
That's not fair.
Quick,
we've got 30 seconds. We get another 4 words in.
Yeah. No one likes losing on this game, it's evident. But anyway, there, someone has to. 7-2, I declare Patrick Campbell's team has won.
Just.
We'll be doing a little more totting from the Oxford English Dictionary next week. Until then, goodbye from Tim Rice, Nigel Dempster, Jenny Agutter, Sinead Cusack, Frank Muir, goodbye, Patrick Campbell, and goodbye. Hello again. This is Call My Bluff, where the tall class of a leprechaun is played by Patrick Campbell.
Good evening. I could talk forever about my first guest. I just say she is Sinead Cusack. And the other lad is disguised as a gossip columnist, but really he's a social worker, Nigel Dempster.
And the Cesar Romero of the panel game, Frank Muir.
I wouldn't mind losing every week if it meant that every week I said, on my right I have Jenny Agutter. On the other hand, I would also have to say, here is cricketer and librettist Tim Rice.
Let's have a word. And we get tohu bohu. And let me explain. that Patrick Campbell and co. will define tohu bohu 3 different ways. 2 are false, 1 is true. That's the one that Frank and co. are going to try and pick out. So, Patrick, what of this word or words?
Tohu bohu comes, of course, from the kind of ancient Hebrew. With tohu wa bohu. It means a kind of emptiness and desolation. But who latched onto this ancient Hebrew word first in the way of European writers? None other than Voltaire.
God,
writing in French.
Isn't it?
But he slipped in and gave little tohu bohu, meaning utter desolation and a howling vacuum.
Back to digging the garden.
Right.
Pardon?
Let us now see what Nigel Dempster says.
Tohu bohu is a resinous liquid that is obtained by tapping the bark of the tohu tree, which is indigenous to Colombia in South America. And tohu bohu was once believed to have stimulating properties, I think is the right way of putting it. And tohu bohu lozenges frequently featured on the shelves of Victorian pharmacies.
Oh, what was it? I was writing down Patrick.
Stuff you drink or eat, I think. Yes. Do you good?
Yes.
Sinead, your turn.
Tohu bohu is, roughly speaking, a South Sea Islander's equivalent to the English tooraloo. That is to say, it's a meaningless refrain of a very joyful nature, which a South Sea Islander happily chants as an accompaniment to the lead singer.
Right. It's a meaningless refrain. It's a kind of a tonic got from this tree, and it's a sense of emptiness or despair or nothingness. Frank?
I need a piece of evidence to complete my rough draft here.
Yes.
Where